Sarah Mitchell stood under the hood of a 1992 Civic, her hands covered in dark grease. The morning sun came through the large windows of her repair shop, making long shadows across the concrete floor. She had owned the shop for 5 years now, ever since her father passed away and left it to her. The shop was small, sitting on the edge of a town called in Oregon, surrounded by pine forests and mountains that touched the sky. The work was honest work. Sarah never cheated customers. She told them the truth about their cars, even when the truth meant they needed expensive repairs. Her father had taught her that. He was a mechanic before he became sick, and he always said that trust was worth more than money. Sarah believed this. She made a fair living, enough to keep the shop open and pay her 2 workers and Tom. She was happy with this life. On an autumn morning in October, a sound broke through Sarah's focus. An old truck pulled into her shop, and the engine was making a noise like a dying animal. The truck was a 1998 Ford F-150, once blue but now faded to gray. The engine coughed and stuttered as the driver turned it off. Sarah looked up from her work and watched a man climb down from the truck. The man was old. His face was marked with deep lines like a map of hard years. His hands shook a little as he held the door. He moved slowly, with pain in his movements, as if his body had been broken many times and never fully healed. He wore a faded Vietnam War veteran baseball cap. Sarah had seen men like this before. She recognized the look. It was the look of someone who had seen things that changed them forever. The man walked toward Sarah. His name was Frank Harrison. He was 73 years old, though he looked older. Life had not been kind to Frank, but he had learned to live with this. He smiled at Sarah, and the smile was genuine even though his eyes were sad. "Morning," Frank said. His voice was rough like sandpaper. "My truck is dying. I need help." Sarah wiped her hands on a rag and walked to the truck. "Let me take a look," she said. She opened the hood and looked inside. What she saw made her frown. The engine block was cracked. The transmission was leaking fluid. Several belts were worn thin and close to breaking. The starter looked like it might fail any day. This was not a truck that could be fixed with small repairs. This was a truck that needed serious work. Sarah started the engine to hear how bad it sounded. The noise was terrible. The engine knocked and shook. Smoke came from under the hood. She turned it off quickly and looked at Frank. "This is bad," she said. She was not the kind of person to lie about such things. "You need a new transmission. The engine block is cracked, so we need to either rebuild it or replace it. There are other parts that need work too. I need to look more carefully to give you an exact price." Frank's face fell. Sarah could see the fear in his eyes. He looked like a man who was already carrying more weight than he could hold, and now the weight was getting heavier. "How much will that cost?" Frank asked. His voice was quieter now. Sarah spent 2 hours checking every part of the truck. She looked at the coolant system, the electrical system, the suspension. She made notes. When she was done, she walked to Frank, who was sitting in her shop waiting room, drinking bad coffee from a machine and staring at nothing. "Frank," she said, "I need to be honest with you." Frank looked at her. He was ready for bad news. He was used to bad news. "The work will cost between $7,500 and $8,500, Sarah said. "It might be more if we find other damage when we start the work." Frank closed his eyes. He did not speak for a long time. Sarah waited. She had delivered bad news before. "I don't have that kind of money," Frank said finally. His hands were shaking. "I don't have a quarter of that money. I was hoping it was something small. I was hoping I could pay you and keep going." "What do you use the truck for?" Sarah asked. She wanted to understand the situation better. Frank looked up at her. "I volunteer up in the mountains. There are communities up there, small towns and settlements where people don't have much. They need supplies, food, medicine, building materials. I drive up there and deliver what I can find. I've been doing it for 30 years. The truck is my way of helping. Without it, I can't do the work." Sarah felt something move in her chest. She thought of her father. He had been a veteran too. He had come back from war changed like Frank was changed. She remembered him telling her that life was about service, about doing what you could for people who needed help. "Frank," Sarah said, "I'm going to repair your truck." Frank looked confused. "I just told you I can't pay." "I know," Sarah said. "I'm going to repair it anyway. There will be no charge. It's what my father would have done. It's what I should do." Frank stood up. His hands were shaking more now. "No," he said. "I can't let you do that. That's too much. That's not right." "It's what I'm doing," Sarah said. Her voice was firm. She did not argue. She simply stated what would happen. "We can start tomorrow, but Frank, I need to know you understand. This is a lot of work. My team and I will be working on your truck for 2 weeks, maybe longer. This will cost us money, money that comes from other work we could be doing. But some things are more important than money. Your service is important. What you do for those communities is important. You shouldn't lose that because of an old truck." Frank's eyes filled with tears. He did not try to hide them. A man his age, who had seen war and suffered and lived alone for so long, did not have the strength to hide tears. "Thank you," he said. His voice broke. "Thank you." Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah's shop became a place of quiet purpose. During the day, Sarah worked on other cars, fixing brakes and replacing tires, and doing the regular work that paid the bills. But in the evenings and early mornings, she and her workers and Tom worked on Frank's truck. They replaced the transmission with a unit from a salvage yard that was almost new. They rebuilt the engine block instead of replacing it, which saved money. They replaced all the belts, hoses, and filters. They fixed the electrical system. They painted the hood and the sides where the rust was showing. They worked carefully, not rushing, doing the job right. Frank came to the shop most days. He sat in the waiting room or in a chair in the garage watching them work. He brought coffee from his house and brought sandwiches that he made himself. He didn't talk much, but he was there. Sarah got to know him. She learned that he had been married once, but his wife left him after he came back from Vietnam, unable to live with his anger and nightmares. He had no children. His work in the mountains was his family now. On the last day, Sarah and Frank took the truck out for a test drive. The engine started smoothly. The transmission shifted with precision and power. The truck ran like it was new again. Frank gripped the steering wheel and tears came down his face. "It's beautiful," he said. "It's perfect." When they returned to the shop, Frank tried once more to pay Sarah. He emptied his pockets. He had $300 in cash and a checkbook. He offered everything he had. "No," Sarah said. She meant it. "Keep your money, Frank. You need it for your work. This is done. Go help those people in the mountains." The next morning, Frank said goodbye to Sarah. He hugged her, something he had not done with anyone in a V3 weeks after Frank drove away in his repaired truck. Sarah was working in her shop when Tom came to her holding a package. The box was small, no bigger than a shoebox, and it was wrapped in plain brown paper. There was no return address, just her name written in careful block letters on the front. "This came in the mail this morning," Tom said. "No postage on it. Someone must have left it at the door." Sarah took the package. It was light, almost too light to hold anything important. She felt confused. She was not expecting anything. She had not ordered anything online. She opened the package carefully at her workbench while Tom watched. Inside was something that made her stop moving and stop breathing. It was a cube made of metal that she did not recognize. The metal was silver, but it shimmered with colors that seemed to move. The cube was the size of a deck of cards. From inside it, a soft blue light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. The light came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Sarah had never seen technology like this. It was not human technology. "What is that?" Tom asked. His voice was small and scared. "I don't know," Sarah said, but her hands were shaking. There was also a letter in the package. It was handwritten on paper that felt expensive and smooth. The letter was written in English, but the English was not perfect. It was written by someone who spoke English as a second language, someone who was still learning the grammar and the words. Sarah read the letter. As she read, her mind began to break open. The letter was from someone called the Alliance. The letter said that they had been watching Earth for 100 years. The letter said that Frank Harrison was not entirely human. Sarah sat down. Her legs did not feel strong enough to hold her body up anymore. The letter explained that Frank was the result of a secret experiment in 1962. Scientists working for the United States government had created him by combining human DNA with genetic material from an alien species. The goal was to create soldiers who could survive on other planets, soldiers who were stronger and smarter and more adaptable than normal humans. The experiment was supposed to produce killing machines. It produced Frank instead. The Alliance had been watching Frank for 70 years. They had monitored every day of his life. They had watched him refuse to kill when he could have. They had watched him use his strength to help people instead of to hurt them. They had watched him live as a normal human being even though he was not. They had watched him volunteer in poor communities, teach children, fix things, and help people rebuild their lives. They had watched him choose kindness again and again every single day. The letter said that the Alliance did not expect this. They did not expect an experiment designed to create a killer to produce instead a man full of love and mercy. The scientists in the Alliance had studied thousands of species across the galaxy. Most species used their strength to take what they wanted. Most species destroyed things that threatened them. Most species were driven by greed and fear and hunger for power. But Frank was not like this. Frank was human, truly human, in the way that mattered most. The Alliance was very concerned about Earth. They said that humans were destroying their own world. Humans killed each other in wars. Humans poisoned their own air and water. Humans were divided by tribalism and greed. Humans seemed incapable of cooperating to solve their biggest problems. The Alliance believed that humanity was heading toward extinction. The species was smart but not wise. The species had power but not the character to use power well. But then the letter said something else. It said that Sarah Mitchell had been observed. It said that Sarah had seen a stranger in need and had helped him without expecting payment. It said that Sarah had spent $8,000 of her own money, money that she needed to keep her business alive, to help a man she had just met. It said that Sarah did this because she believed it was the right thing to do. The letter said that this action was rare in the galaxy. The letter said that most species would have turned Frank away. Most species would have told him that his problem was his problem, not theirs. Most species would have said that they could not afford to help, but Sarah did not say this. Sarah helped. Sarah chose service over profit. The letter explained that the Alliance was testing humanity. The test was not about weapons or technology or military power. The test was about character. The test was about whether humans, when given a choice between helping a stranger and keeping their money, would choose to help. The test was about whether humans had the capacity for sacrifice and mercy and love. The letter said that Sarah had passed the test. The letter said that humanity's future depended on more humans like Sarah. The letter said that the Alliance could give humanity advanced technology. This technology could end poverty. It could cure all diseases. It could stop wars. It could fix the damage that humans had done to their own world. The technology existed. The Alliance had it. But the letter said something important. The letter said that if the Alliance gave this technology to humanity without humanity earning it, humanity might not have the wisdom to use it well. Technology given too easily could become a weapon. Knowledge given without struggle could become a tool of corruption and control. The Alliance had seen this happen to other species. They had seen civilizations destroy themselves with technology they did not understand and did not deserve. So the letter offered Sarah a choice. Sarah could ask the Alliance for the technology. Sarah could ask for the knowledge and the power to save her species, or Sarah could ask for something else. Sarah could ask the Alliance to reveal themselves to the world. Sarah could ask them to tell humanity that Earth was not alone, that humanity was being watched, that humanity's character mattered to other species in other parts of the galaxy. The choice, the letter said, had to be made by someone who had already shown that they understood the real value of life and freedom and sacrifice. The choice had to be made by someone like Sarah. At the bottom of the letter, the cube was described. The cube was a communication device. Sarah could use it to contact the Alliance directly. She could ask them questions. She could tell them her choice. The cube would not break. It would last forever. It was a piece of technology that the Alliance was leaving with Sarah, proof that the letter was real. Sarah put the letter down. She picked up the cube and held it in her hands. The blue light pulsed against her palms. She did not know if she was dreaming or going crazy. She did not know if this was real or if her mind had broken under the stress of running the shop and living alone for so many years. Tom was still standing nearby. He had read the letter too. He was pale. "Sarah," he said, "what is this?" "I don't know," Sarah said. She meant it. "I don't know what any of this is." That night, Sarah could not sleep. She sat in her house, which was a small cottage behind the shop, and she stared at the cube. The blue light pulsed. It pulsed like breathing. It pulsed like a heartbeat. It pulsed like something alive. Sarah made a decision. She would find Frank. She would show him the package and the letter. If any of this was real, Frank would know. Frank would be able to tell her what to do. The next morning, Sarah closed her shop and drove north into the mountains, following the directions that Frank had given her weeks before. She was looking for a man who was not human, a man she had repaired a truck for, a man who seemed to be the center of something much larger than she understood. Sarah drove for 5 hours into the mountains. The road became smaller and narrower as she climbed higher. The trees grew thicker and older, reaching toward the sky like they were trying to touch something beyond the clouds. She followed Frank's directions carefully. North from the town of then left at the broken sign, then right at the fork where the river crossed the road. The community where Frank worked was called. It was really just a collection of houses and small buildings scattered across a mountain valley. There was a general store, a small school, a medical clinic that was open only 2 days a week, and homes that people had built over many years. The people who lived here had chosen to live far from cities. They wanted quiet. They wanted to be left alone. They wanted to live on their own terms. Sarah found Frank at the schoolhouse. He was outside, working on a water system with a group of children. The children ranged from about 7 years old to 14 years old. Frank was showing them how to clean the filters that kept the water safe to drink. He moved slowly as he worked, but his hands were sure and his voice was calm. When Frank saw Sarah, he stopped moving. He knew something was wrong. Sarah would not have driven 5 hours into the mountains for no reason. "Sarah," he said. He said her name like a question. "I need to talk to you," Sarah said. "It's important." Frank asked one of the older children, a girl named Lucy, to watch the water system and continue the cleaning. Then he walked with Sarah away from the school, away from the children, to a quiet place in the trees where nobody could hear them. Sarah showed him the package. She showed him the cube and the letter. As Frank read the letter, she watched his face change. The color drained from his skin. His hands began to shake. He read the letter twice, then a third time, as if he could not believe what he was reading. "How long have you had this?" he asked. "Since yesterday," Sarah said. "I came to find you because I didn't know who else to ask. The letter says you know what this is. The letter says you're not human." Frank sat down on a fallen tree. He was silent for a very long time. Then he began to speak. His voice was quiet, like he was talking to himself instead of to Sarah. "I was born in 1950, Frank said. "I was a normal boy. I grew up in California with a mother and a father. We were poor, but we were a family. When I was 12 years old, my family died in a car accident. I was in the back seat. They were in the front. The car flipped and crashed into a tree. My mother and father died. I should have died too. I was broken and bleeding, but I didn't die." Frank looked at Sarah. His eyes were empty. "After that, I was alone. I was put into foster care. I lived with different families, and most of them were not kind to me. I was angry at the world. I was angry at God. I wanted to hurt people the way I had been hurt. When I was 17, I was in trouble with the law. That's when the government came to me." Frank stood up and walked to a tree. He pressed his hand against the bark. His hand sank slightly into the wood. "They told me I was special. They told me they could make me into something more than human. They said I would be stronger, smarter, faster. They said I would be a soldier who could do impossible things. They said I would finally matter. I said yes. I was 17 and broken and angry, and they told me I could matter. I said yes to everything they offered." Frank pulled his hand away from the tree. There was a hole in the bark where his hand had been. The mark was deep and shaped like a human palm. "The experiment lasted for 6 months, Frank said. "They put me in a facility in Nevada. They injected me with things. They changed my DNA. They combined my human genetics with genetics from another species. I don't know what species. They never told me. They just said that the species was advanced and could survive anywhere. The pain was bad. I thought I was dying, but I didn't die. I changed." Sarah watched him. She was afraid and fascinated at the same time. "After the experiment, I was a weapon," Frank said. "I was exactly what they wanted. I was strong enough to kill a person with my bare hands. I was fast enough to move faster than a normal person could see. I could see in the dark. I could heal from wounds that would kill anyone else. My bones were harder than steel. My muscles were stronger. My brain was faster. I was a perfect killer." Frank turned to face Sarah. "They trained me for the military," he said. "They trained me how to kill. They trained me how to destroy. They prepared me to go to Vietnam and fight. But something happened that they didn't plan for. I got to know the soldiers I was training with. I realized they were just men. They were scared. They wanted to go home to their families. They didn't want to kill. They wanted to live." Frank's voice became harder. "In 1968, I went to Vietnam. I was 18 years old. I was a weapon sent to war. But when I got there, when I saw the villages and the children and the people trying to survive, something broke in me, or maybe something healed in me. The part of me that was human became stronger. The part of me that wanted to be a killer became weaker. I saw things in that war that changed me. I saw soldiers die. I saw innocent people suffer. I saw the destruction that weapons bring." Frank walked back and sat down again. "I refused to kill," he said. "I was a weapon and I refused to use my power to kill. I helped people escape. I carried wounded soldiers away from fighting. I used my strength to save lives instead of taking them. The military was confused. They had created the perfect killing machine, and the killing machine refused to kill." Sarah understood now why Frank had spent 30 years volunteering in the mountains. She understood why he helped people. She understood why he was the way he was. When I came back from Vietnam, Frank said, they wanted to use me again. They wanted me to go to other wars, kill other enemies, be their weapon, but I was done. I faked my own death. I changed my name. I disappeared. I spent years hiding, learning how to be human, learning how to live among people without hurting them. And then I found a way to use my strength for good instead of for destruction. Frank pointed north toward the mountains. These people, he said, the communities I help, they matter. Helping them matter more than anything the government wanted me to do. Fixing their water systems matter more. Teaching children matter more. Living a quiet life where I help people and hurt nobody matter more than all the power they gave me. Frank looked at the letter again. The Alliance, he said. I always wondered if there was somebody watching. I always wondered if there was a reason I was different from other people. Now I know. They were watching. They were testing to see if I could be human enough to choose mercy over violence. And I did. I chose mercy. Frank handed the letter back to Sarah. There are 2 others like me, Frank said. 2 other people who survived the experiment. Price works as a doctor in Canada. She heals people. James works in Africa restoring forests and teaching people how to live with nature. We've been connected for years. We talk sometimes. We understand each other in ways that normal humans cannot. We all chose the same thing. We all chose to help instead of hurt. We all chose mercy instead of power. Sarah felt the weight of what Frank was saying. She felt the weight of the choice that had been given to her. The letter says I have to choose, Sarah said. I have to choose between asking for technology that could save humanity or asking for something else. What should I choose, Frank? Frank was quiet for a long time. He looked at the mountains. He looked at the forest. He looked at the sky. You need to choose what you believe will make humanity ready to join the larger world, Frank said. But I can tell you what I believe. I believe that humanity doesn't need technology to save it. I believe humanity needs to save itself. I believe humans need to know that the galaxy is watching them, that their choices matter, that someone cares about whether they become good or bad. I believe humans need to know they're not alone. Sarah returned to her shop after 3 days with Frank in the mountains. She had a lot to think about. The cube sat on her workbench, pulsing its blue light like a small star that had fallen to Earth. She did not turn it on yet. She was not ready to speak with the Alliance. She needed to understand what they were offering. She needed to understand what it meant to choose one path or another. For a week, Sarah did her regular work. She fixed cars. She helped customers. She paid her bills, but her mind was somewhere else. At night, she sat in her house and thought about the choice. She thought about technology. She thought about what it meant to give a species technology they had not earned. Finally, she decided to ask other people what they thought. She did not tell them about the aliens. She did not tell them about Frank. She simply asked them questions about humanity. She asked them about what people needed to survive. She asked them about struggle and growth. She asked her employee, "Do you think people can change if life is too easy for them?" Thought about this. He said, "No, I think people grow from struggle. I grew up poor. Now I have money and a good life. But I remember being poor. That memory made me stronger. I think if I had always been rich, I would be a different person. I would be worse. I would not appreciate what I have." She asked Tom, her other employee, "If you could have anything you wanted without working for it, would you be happy?" Tom said, "No, I would feel empty. I need to work for things. I need to feel like I earned them. That's what makes them real." Sarah asked people at the coffee shop. She asked the teacher at the local school. She asked an old woman who sat in the park every day. She asked people what they thought humans really needed. The teacher said, "I teach children every day. The children who are happiest are not the ones whose parents give them everything. The happiest children are the ones who work for things, who learn to solve problems, who face challenges and overcome them. If I gave them all the answers, they would not learn anything." The old woman said, "I have lived for 87 years. I have seen hard times. I have seen good times. The hard times made me strong. The times when I had to struggle for what I wanted taught me what I really valued. If I had been given everything, I would never have learned anything. I would never have become myself." Sarah also researched using the cube. She was nervous about it, but she asked it questions through a kind of interface that appeared when she touched it. She asked it about civilizations that had been given advanced technology. Cube showed her information about 3 civilizations. The first civilization was called They lived on a planet that was very old and well-developed. The Alliance gave them advanced technology 300 years ago. The technology was meant to help them, but what happened instead was that the technology made the powerful more powerful. The weak people were unable to compete with the powerful people who had access to the technology. Wars broke out. The civilization destroyed itself. Now they were gone. The second civilization was called They were intelligent and creative. The Alliance gave them technology too. They used the technology to build amazing cities and great machines. But the technology was so powerful that individuals did not need to cooperate anymore. They did not need each other. The society fell apart. Families separated. Communities broke down. They became isolated and lonely even though they had wonderful technology. The third civilization was called They were like humans in many ways. They were tribal and competed with each other. The Alliance offered them technology, but they said no. They said they wanted to develop their own technology. They wanted to struggle and learn and grow. They have been developing for 10,000 years slowly on their own. Now they are one of the most respected civilizations in the galaxy. They did it themselves. Sarah understood what the cube was showing her. The cube was showing her that technology was not the answer. The cube was showing her that civilizations needed to grow on their own. They needed to struggle. They needed to learn. They needed to earn their place in the universe. But the cube also showed her something else. It showed her civilizations that had chosen a different path. It showed her civilizations that had been told they were not alone. It showed her civilizations that knew other species were watching them. And those civilizations grew stronger. They cooperated more. They worked together. They tried to be good because they knew others were watching. Sarah understood her choice now. She understood what she needed to do. On a cold November morning, Sarah sat in her shop with the cube in her hands. She touched it and spoke to it like the interface showed her how to do. "Alliance," she said, her voice was steady. "I have made my choice." The cube glowed brighter. Sarah heard a voice in her mind, not through her ears but through her thoughts. The voice was calm and ancient and kind. "We hear you, Sarah Mitchell," the voice said. "What is your choice?" Sarah took a breath. "I don't want the technology," she said. "I don't want knowledge that would make my life easier without making me stronger. I want something else. I want you to reveal yourselves to the world. I want you to tell humanity that Earth is not alone. I want you to tell humanity that the universe is watching. I want you to tell humans that their choices matter. I want you to tell them that their kindness matters. I want them to know that someone cares about whether they become good or bad." The voice was silent for a moment. "This is a difficult choice," the voice said. "This choice means that humanity will struggle more. Humanity will face problems that your technology could have solved. Humanity will have to grow on its own. Humanity might fail. Humanity might destroy itself. Do you understand what you are asking?" "Yes," Sarah said. "I understand. But I also understand that if you give humanity the power without making humanity earn it, humanity will destroy itself anyway. Human strength has to come from inside. Humans have to want to be good. They have to work for it. That is the only way they will ever truly be worthy of being part of the greater galaxy." The voice spoke again. "You are correct," the voice said. "This is what we have learned watching your species. This is what Frank Harrison taught us. This is what you have taught us through your own actions. Humans are not strong because of power. Humans are strong because they can choose to care about others even when it costs them something. This strength is rare and precious. We will do as you ask." The cube stopped glowing. The blue light became white, then became so bright that Sarah had to look away. "In 3 months," the voice said, "we will reveal ourselves to your world. We will speak to every person on Earth at the same time. We will tell them that they are not alone. We will tell them that we are watching. We will tell them that their choice to be good matters. We will tell them what you have already learned, that true strength comes from choosing kindness over cruelty, sacrifice over greed, and love over fear." The light faded. The cube returned to its normal size and color. The pulsing blue light continued, steady and constant like a heartbeat. Sarah sat in her shop and cried. She had made her choice. She had spoken for all of humanity. She had a 3 months past. Sarah kept her choice secret. She did not tell Tom what the cube was. She did not tell her customers or her friends. She told only Frank and James. The 4 of them waited together for what was coming. They talked on the phone. They wrote emails. They prepared themselves for the moment when everything would change. The Alliance had chosen the date, February 14th. They said they wanted it to be a day associated with love. They wanted the world to receive the message on a day when humans already thought about caring for each other. Sarah thought this was a good choice. It showed that the Alliance understood humans. It showed that they knew how to speak in a way that humans would understand. On the night of February 13th, Sarah could not sleep. She sat in her shop waiting for morning to come. She looked at the cube, now sitting on her desk where she could see it. The blue light pulsed. It had been pulsing for months. It never stopped. It never changed. It was like the heartbeat of something vast and alive, something that surrounded the Earth even though nobody could see it. At sunrise on February 14th, Sarah went to work. She opened her shop, and Tom came in as usual. They started their usual work. But the world was about to change, and nobody knew it except Sarah and 3 other people. At noon, everything stopped. The sky filled with light, not sunlight, something different, something that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Every person on Earth experienced it at the same time. Every screen went dark, then lit up again, showing the same message. Every person heard a voice in their mind, a voice that was not words, but that became words, a voice that was understood in every language, a voice that spoke to the soul. In Sarah's shop, and Tom stopped moving. They stared upward. Their eyes were wide. They could feel it. Everyone on Earth could feel it, the presence of something vast and old and kind. The message appeared on every screen. We have been watching you. We have been watching for 100 years. We see your struggles. We see your failures. We see your wars. We see your greed. We see your division. These things sadden us. But we also see something else. We see your kindness. We see the moments when you choose to help a stranger when helping costs you something. We see the times when you forgive instead of taking revenge. We see the parents who sacrifice everything for their children. We see the teachers who inspire. We see the volunteers who serve. We see the humans who work every day to make their world better even when nobody notices. These actions make you worthy of joining the greater civilization. These actions make you valuable. These actions are what we have been searching for in the galaxy. The ability to choose to care about others. The ability to choose mercy. The ability to choose sacrifice. These are the things that matter. We do not offer you technology to replace your growth. We do not offer you knowledge to solve your problems for you. We offer you only this, the knowledge that your struggle matters, the knowledge that the universe is paying attention, the knowledge that you are not alone. Become the best version of yourselves. Learn to care for each other. Learn to care for your world. Learn to care for every living thing. Become worthy of the respect of the galaxies. That is all we ask. We will be watching. We are proud of you. You have a future. You have a place in the community of conscious beings. Now you must earn it. Live well, become better, choose love. The message ended. The light faded. The world returned to normal, but nothing was the same. Across the Earth, people stood in shock. Some people cried. Some people laughed. Some people fell to their knees. Scientists and military leaders and political leaders gathered in emergency meetings. Religious leaders spoke about what had happened. The entire world was talking about the message. The entire world had received proof that Earth was not alone. Sarah's shop became the center of attention. News crews came to her shop. Reporters wanted to know why the message had been received at her location. Government officials wanted to talk to her. Sarah tried to hide, but she could not hide from something this big. On the 3rd day after the message, Sarah finally agreed to give a statement. She stood in front of her shop with cameras pointing at her. She told the truth about Frank. She told the truth about the cube. She told the truth about the choice. She told the world why she had chosen to ask for revelation instead of technology. I believe that humans are strong enough to face the truth, she said. I believe that humans are good enough to choose to be better. I believe that knowing we are not alone will make us better. I believe that knowing we are being watched will make us want to be worthy of that attention. I don't think technology is what saves us. I think knowledge of who we are and who we could become, that is what saves us. Frank came forward after Sarah. He revealed himself to the world. He told his story. He told the world about the experiment. He told the world about choosing mercy instead of violence. He told the world that humans were capable of incredible things if they chose to be. And James came forward too, was a doctor who had spent her life healing people. James was an environmental scientist who had spent his life protecting forests and teaching people how to live with nature. Together, the 4 of them became ambassadors for humanity. They traveled the world. They spoke at universities and community centers and international forums. They told the story of why human kindness mattered. The world changed slowly after that day. There was no magical technology to fix everything. Poverty was still there. Disease was still there. Climate change was still there. War was still there. But something shifted in how humans thought about these problems. Humans began to cooperate more. Humans began to see that working together was better than fighting. Humans began to care about building a future that would be worthy of the attention of the greater galaxy. 1 year after the message, Sarah sat in her repair shop at sunset. The shop looked the same as it always had. The walls still needed paint. The tools still hung on the same hooks. The chairs still sat in the waiting room, but the shop had become something more than a repair shop. It had become a symbol. It had become a place where humans learned that ordinary people could do extraordinary things. A young person came into the shop. He was 16 years old. His name was David. He was looking for a job. "I heard you help people," David said. "I want to learn how to help people too." Sarah smiled. She remembered Frank's truck. She remembered the letter from the Alliance. She remembered the choice she had made. She remembered standing on the edge of something vast and unknowable and choosing to speak for her species. "Yes," she said to David. "I help people. Sit down and I will teach you how." David learned to fix engines. He learned to be honest with customers. He learned that doing good work mattered more than making money. He learned that service was valuable. Within months, there were more young people coming to the shop, wanting to learn, wanting to help. Sarah's shop became a place of training and purpose. Sarah thought often about the Alliance. She wondered if they were still watching. She wondered if they were surprised by how humans responded to the knowledge that they were not alone. She wondered if they were proud. One night, 3 years after the message, Sarah was alone in her shop. She held the cube in her hand. The blue light pulsed as it always did. "Are you still there?" she asked. The voice came to her mind, calm and ancient and kind. "We are always here," the voice said. "We are watching. We are very pleased with what you have all done. Humanity is learning. Humanity is growing. Humanity is becoming worthy. You made the right choice, Sarah Mitchell." Sarah felt tears on her face. "What happens next?" she asked. "What happens next," the voice said, "is that humanity writes its own future. You have the knowledge, you have the understanding, you have the will. Now you must show us what you can become. We believe in you. The entire galaxy believes in you now." The voice faded. The cube continued to pulse. Sarah set it down gently on her workbench. She looked around her shop at the tools and the machines and the place where she had spent her life serving others. She thought of Frank and his truck. She thought of that act of kindness that had started everything. She thought of how one person's choice to care about another person had changed the course of human history. She thought about how the smallest acts of love and service could ripple out and change everything. Sarah turned off the lights and locked the shop. She walked home under stars that suddenly felt different. Those stars were not just distant lights anymore. They were home to civilizations. They were home to beings who cared whether humanity lived or died. They were home to the future. The Earth continued to turn. Humanity continued to struggle and grow. Humans continued to choose kindness or cruelty, service or selfishness, love or fear. The choice was always theirs. But now they knew they were not alone. Now they knew they were being watched. Now they knew that their choices mattered to a universe that cared about them. And in a small shop in Oregon, Sarah Mitchell continued her quiet work of helping people fix their broken things. She continued to serve her community. She continued to show that human strength came not from weapons or power or wealth, but from the simple choice to care about others. She had changed the world not by seeking power, but by choosing kindness. And that choice had mattered more than she ever could have imagined. Scared for something that would change everything. In 3 months, the world would know that it was not alone. In 3 months, humanity would have to face who they really were and decide who they wanted to become. She did not know if she had made the right choice. She only knew that it was the choice that felt true in her heart. It was the choice that Frank would have made. It was the choice that her father would have made. It was the choice that humans who cared about other humans would make. And now she had to live with that choice and see what happened next. Frank stood up and looked at Sarah with eyes that were very old and very young at the same time. "You showed me kindness," he said. "You showed me that humans can be good even when it costs them something. You showed me that humans can choose to help a stranger for no reward. That is the kind of human the galaxy needs to see. That is the kind of human worth saving. So I think you should show the galaxy more humans like that. I think you should ask them to reveal themselves. I think you should ask them to tell the world that Earth matters." The question that filled her mind as she drove was simple but enormous. What was she going to do with this choice? What was she going to ask for? Long time, he promised he would never forget what she did. Then he drove away in his truck, heading north toward the mountains and the communities that needed him. Sarah watched him go. She did not know that her kindness was being watched by forces far beyond her understanding. She did not know that somewhere in the darkness of space, a decision was being made about the future of the entire human race. She simply knew that she had done what was right. That was enough.